getting out of the clutches. The best remedy for getting out of the clutches of the cobra like Kal or its integrity, the modes of nature, is Bhakti Yoga, as is recommended in the Bhagavad Gita 14.26. The highest perfectional project of philanthropic activities is to engage everyone in the act of preaching Bhakti Yoga all over the world, because that alone can save the people from the control of Maya or the material nature represented by Kal, Karm, and Gun, as described above. The Bhagavad Gita 14.26 confirms this definitely. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for Hare Krishna. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu, for reading the purport. Okay. Now, just to give the background of what are we going through, what are we studying. This shloka is spoken by Narad Muni to Yudhishthira Maharaj, as Yudhishthira Maharaj was lamenting as his uncle Dhritarashtra and aunt Gandhari have left the palace of Hastinapur. After the battle of Kurukshetra, Yudhishthira Maharaj was very respectfully maintaining Dhritarashtra and Gandhari in Hastinapur palace. But as we know that one day Vidura came to Hastinapur palace and told Dhritarashtra that you are not supposed to be such a degraded, such a degraded life being maintained by Pandavas. So because you have done so much of atrocities against them some time back, and now they are maintaining you. Not only that, you are supposed to take some interest in your spiritual life. How long will you live such a materialistic life attached to this palace, comforts, and royal facilities? So he's telling, Vidura is telling, please give up this materialistic life and take to spiritual life and go to the forest. After contemplating, Dhritarashtra realizes that whatever his brother Vidura has explained to him, and it's a good advice. So he takes this advice, and Dhritarashtra leaves the palace and was joined by his good wife Gandhari. You know that Gandhari had voluntarily blindfolded herself because the husband was blind. So now they have left. This is a matter of concern for Yudhishthira Maharaj, because he says that both of them, they are physically challenged because they are blind, and at the same time they are old, and they have gone away, left the palace without any idea as to where they have gone. So Narad Muni is explaining it to him, and next morning what happens, Yudhishthira, when he goes to the chambers to offer his obeisances, which was his daily routine, he is going there, and he is going and trying to search for them, and both of them, neither the Dhritarashtra nor Aunt Gandhari is seen in the palace. So he is very much concerned, and because he sees that they are old, they are physically challenged, so he started lamenting. Now Narad Muni came to Yudhishthira Maharaj and told him that, why are you lamenting? Yudhishthira Maharaj told, my uncle and aunt have left the palace. They are old people. Who will take care of them? How will they maintain themselves? Narad Muni said in this material world, people believe. Now, this is very important, that Narad Muni has said that in this material world, the people believe that they can maintain other people. This is what I was just thinking over. Like, we must have heard so many of the examples that there is a saying in Hindi, and it says, Ajgar kare na chakari, panchi kare na kam, das malu ka keh gaye, sabke data ram, which means that Ajgar means the python. The python, he doesn't, Ajgar kare na chakari, he doesn't do any work. He just sits at one place and the food comes to him. The frogs or the rats or anything, whichever are his food, they come to him. So python, he doesn't do any, he serves anybody, like, he doesn't go and work for somebody. So, Ajgar kare na chakari, panchi kare na kam. The birds, they don't work. The birds, they fly and they just move here and there. Panchi kare na kam. Das Maluka keh gaye. That's a saint whose name is Maluka. He says, Das Maluka keh gaye, sabke data ram. So even from an ant to an elephant, whatever is the day-to-day requirement of food is taken care by the Lord. So here, Narad Muni is saying that people believe, the human beings, they believe that they can maintain other people. So he speaks this very important philosophical truth. This material body is made up of 5 bhautika elements. What are these? So there's an acronym for that, WAFE, WAFEE. W stands for water, A stands for air, F stands for fire, E stands for ether, and E stands for earth. So all these 5 elements, and what happens? This material body is made up of 5 bhautika elements. This is what is explained here, and the soul is entrapped in this body. This is what is mentioned. The soul is entrapped in this body, and because this body wants all these senses they want to enjoy, not only is the soul entrapped in the material but also influenced by kala. It is also under the control of karma. Now whatever karmas reactions we have done in while our past activities or the present activities, we are controlled. Now, and the 3 modes, what are these 3 modes? Sato, Rajo, and Tamo Gun. Mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance. These 4, that means Kal, Karma, Guna, and Deha. Deha means the body. Control the soul who is always in demand of material body's requirement. So how can one who is influenced, conditioned by the material body in this way protect another person who is suffering? So when the body is already been, it's trapped by these things, body requirements, how can that person who is more, in the material world, he is already trapped with these things? How can this person who is already trapped, who himself is been, tied up, how can such a person help another person to get away with it? So Naraji is giving a simple example. How can a person been swallowed or sucked by a big python help another person who is giving him a helping hand? Now, this is what's mentioned is, if we can see the shloka, in it is, that's the word which is mentioned as, see, sarpa grasto yatha param. That sarpa is, what is sarpa? Sarpa is the snake. Now that snake, that's python, he has already swallowed somebody. Sarpa grasta, one who is bitten by the snake, one who has been swallowed by a python. How can a person who is being swallowed by the python help another person who is trying to give him a helping hand? What will happen? That person also, if it will catch the person who is in the mouth of a python, he tries to help somebody who is outside, who's trying to help him. If the person is already in the mouth of python, he's catching somebody else's hand, even that person will be swallowed inside. This is what exactly is been mentioned here. And like so who is helping someone but I am? So Narad is giving this example. So one can help others only by the mercy of Lord. This is what the basic understanding is, that once we get the mercy of the Lord, that with the only with the mercy of Lord we can get ourselves the help, and then we can help somebody else. And therefore we should always think it's not me who is helping someone, but I am nimit matra by grace of God. So this is a very important point here, that whenever we think we have that ego that we are doing this thing, we are the people who are managing this show, we are this, we are that. So this big thing, I, is a big issue. So ego, has to be subdued by always thinking of the Lord, and remember that it's the Lord who is, without his permission, not even a blade of grass moves. So we have to understand that, and we have to always beg for the mercy of the Lord and the Acharyas, and we can thus understand this from this shloka. We go ahead with the second shloka, which is 113 and 47. Ahasthani sabasthanam apadhani chatuspadam Falguni tatra mahatam jivo jivasya jivanam. Translation: those who are devoid of hands are prey for those who have hands. Those devoid of legs are prey for the four-legged. The weak are the subsistence of the strong, and the general rule holds that one living being is food for another. Can somebody read the purport, please?
Yes, Prabhu, I'll read Prabhu. Systematic law of subsistence in the struggle for existence is there by the supreme will. There is no escape for anyone by any amount of planning. The living beings who have come to the material world against the will of the supreme being are under the control of supreme power called Maya Shakti, the deputed agent of the Lord. And this Devi Maya is meant to pinch the conditioned souls by threefold miseries, one of which is explained here in this verse. The weak are subsistence of the strong, so no one is strong enough to protect himself from the onslaught of a stronger. And by the will of the Lord, there are systematic categories of the weak, the stronger and the strongest. There is nothing to be lamented if a tiger eats a weaker animal, including a man, because that is the law of the Supreme Lord. But although the law states that a human being must subsist on other living being, there is the law of good sense also. For the human being, it is meant to obey the laws of the scriptures. This is impossible for other animals. Human being is meant for self-realization, and for that purpose, he is not to eat anything which is not first offered to the Lord. The Lord accepts from his devotees all kinds of food preparations made of vegetables, fruits, leaves, and grains. Fruits, leaves, and milk is different variety can be offered to the Lord. And after the Lord accepts the food stuff, the devotees can partake the prasad, by which all the sufferings in the struggle of existence will be gradually mitigated. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9:26. Even those who are accustomed to eat animals, even those who are accustomed to eat animals can offer foodstuff not to the Lord directly, but to the agent of the Lord under certain conditions of the religious rites. Injunctions of the scriptures are meant not to encourage the eaters of the animals, but to restrict them by regulative principles. The living being is source of subsistence for the other stronger living beings. No one should be very anxious for this subsistence in any circumstances, because there are living beings everywhere, and no living being starves for the want of food at any place. Maharaj Yudhishthira is advised by Narada not to worry about his uncle's sufferings for want of food, for they could live on vegetables available in the jungles of Prashad of Supreme Lord, and thus realize the path of salvation. Exploitation of the weaker living being by the stronger is a natural law of existence. There is always an attempt to devour the weak in different kingdoms of living beings. There is no possibility of checking this tendency by any artificial means under material conditions. It can be checked only by awakening the spiritual sense of human being by the practice of spiritual regulations. The spiritual regulative principles, however, allow a man to slaughter a weaker animal. The spiritual regulative principles, however, do not allow a man to slaughter a weaker animal on one side and teach others peaceful coexistence. If man does not allow the animals peaceful coexistence, how can he expect peaceful existence in human society? The blind leader must therefore understand the supreme being and then try to implement the kingdom of God. The kingdom of God, or Ram Rajya, is impossible without awakening of God consciousness in the mass mind of the people of the world. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you. The reading pace was perfect, so that we can understand each and every statement or given by Srila Prabhupada in the purport. So now here,
Just a minute.
Hello.
Hare Krishna. I just said amazing purport.
Yeah, that's a beautiful purport, and with the pace what Swarup Prabhu read, it was very good, and each and every word was so specific and so clear that while reading, I have read quite a few times of this purport. But how many important points have been mentioned here? That's really amazing. Now, Narad Muni to Yudhishthira Maharaj, those who do not have hands become food of those who have hands. Those who do not have legs become food of those who have 4 legs. In this material world, one living being will become food for another living being. This is called law of sustenance. One living entity survives by depending on another living entity. Stronger living beings survives on weaker living beings. In case of human beings, there's the law of common sense. This is yahan, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada very nicely mentions it's a good sense. There is a law of good sense also. The good sense has been given to human beings because they have the intelligence. Now, considering that, Srila Prabhupada then he brings the point that of Bhagavad Gita, that people, they should go according to the scriptures. They should understand the scriptures and go according to the scriptures. And Srila Prabhupada mentions Bhagavad Gita 9.26, where it's mentioned Patram Pushpam Valam Toyam. So that means we have to understand what is mentioned in the scriptures and follow according to the instructions mentioned in the scriptures, so that we can progress. And what is our ultimate aim? What is our ultimate goal? We have to go back home, back to Godhead. Now that is possible when we follow the scriptures. So even further, it's also mentioned that Srila Prabhupada also says that the people who are having animals as their food, even that is allowed. But what is this? How this is allowed is that you have to follow. You cannot offer this to Lord Krishna. You have to offer it to the demigods, and that too there are injunctions which are to be followed. So once that injunctions are followed, automatically there will be a realization, there will be a restriction to them, and the people, they will gradually progress ahead in their spiritual endeavor. So, and Srila Prabhupada also mentions here that we will get if we will get relieved from any sinful reactions. Animals cannot do this because we have intelligence, and animals cannot do that. They cannot follow the injunctions of the scriptures or the guru. Human beings are supposed to regulate the demands of the senses and not kill weaker animals. They must follow the injunctions of Bhagavad Gita 9.26. So this very profound statement and a very wonderful explanation to people who try to understand, like, why, like in the scriptures there is mentioned that in some of the scriptures it's mentioned that the killing of animal or offering of the animal, like what they call bali to goddesses Kali, is allowed, but there are some injections which are to be followed. So you cannot just take some good part of it and leave the part which is mentioned to be followed. You cannot do that. Like they say that if the chicken is giving the eggs, so but at the same time it is eating the fodder, it is eating the grains. So if you just want only the eggs, you cannot just have the egg part of it, of the chicken, and chop off the head which is having the grains, because that's an expense for you. So you cannot do that. So you have to follow the entire thing. You have to follow the instructions which are mentioned in the scriptures and go ahead. At the same time, who is taking the final decisions? If you see the systematic, the final call is of the Lord. So, and this reminds me of okay, that we can take it at the time. We go ahead with the shloka number 11348. Tat idam Bhagavan Rajan ek atmat manam swadruk antaro anantaro bhati pasyatam maya yorudha. Okay. Now, therefore, O king, you should look to the Supreme Lord only. One is who is one without a second, and who manifests himself by different energies and is both within and without. So, can somebody read the purport, please?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. The Supreme Lord Personality of Godhead is one without a second, but he manifests himself by different energies because he is by nature blissful. The living beings are also manifestations of his marginal energy, qualitatively one with the Lord, and there are innumerable living beings both within and without the external and internal energies of the Lord. Since the spiritual world is a manifestation of the Lord's internal energy, the living beings within that internal potential are qualitatively one with the Lord without contamination from the external potential. Although qualitatively one with the Lord, the living being due to contamination of the material world is pervadely manifested and therefore he experiences so-called happiness and distress in the material world. Such experiences are all ephemeral and do not affect the spirit soul. The perception of such ephemeral happiness and distress is due only to the forgetfulness of his qualities, which are equal to the Lord's. There is, however, a regular current from the Lord himself, from within and without, by which to rectify the fallen condition of the living being. From within, he corrects the desiring living beings as localized Paramatma, and from without, he corrects by his manifestations the spiritual master and the revealed scriptures. One should look unto the Lord. One should not be disturbed by the so-called manifestations of happiness or distress, but he should try to cooperate with the Lord in his outward activities for correcting the fallen souls. By his order only one should become a spiritual master and cooperate with the Lord. One should not become a spiritual master for one's personal benefit, for some material gain, or as an avenue of business or occupation for earning livelihood. Bona fide spiritual masters who look on to the Supreme Lord to cooperate with him are actually qualitatively one with the Lord, and the forgetful ones are perverted reflections only. Yudhishthira Maharaj is advised by Narada, therefore, not to be disturbed by the affairs of so-called happiness and distress, but to look only unto the Lord to execute the mission for which the Lord has descended. That was his prime duty.
Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Yes.
Prabhu. Now, from this, what we understand, the Narad Ji is now concluding here that we have to depend only on Krishna. There are three energies. I'll just take the bullet points from this. There are three energies of the Lord: Antaranga, Bahiranga, and Tatashta Sakti. We were with the Lord, but because of we were with the Lord, it's clearly mentioned that we were with the Lord. We were there with the Lord from quite a long time, but because of our ichha. So there's a shloka in Bhagavad Gita where it's meant ichha dvesha samaptena dvanda mohena bharata sarva bhutani sammoham sange chanti parantapaha. So what does that say? This is Srimad Bhagavad Gita 7.27. O descendant of Bharata, the dualities of desire and aversion arises from illusion. O conqueror of enemies, all living beings in the material realms are deluded by these. So minute independence, Lord has given us a minute independence, and because of that minute independence, which is misutilized by us, it is misutilized by us. We are here in this material world. Lord is still merciful. Again, Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport, the Lord is still merciful and trying to correct us from within in the form of Paramatma. Whenever there is a desire, there is an intelligence which Lord has given us, and He gives us instructions from within that this is correct, this is not correct, this you should do, this you should not do. And that instructions have been given by Lord in the form of Paramatma. He is residing in our heart. And from outside, like whenever there are two ways with which we get the instructions. One is from inside, that is by the Paramatma, and Srila Prabhupada mentions the other is from our Shiksha and Diksha Guru. Everyone knows that what is right and what is wrong, but because of our ahankar, because of our ego, we do wrong things knowingly. Even we know that it is wrong, we go ahead and we do it. That's our ahankar. A person, now there is an example which has been given by the acharyas. A person, somehow he slipped and he was about to fall from the cliff into the valley. Now he was carrying loads and loads of weight on his body. So somebody, at the correct moment, he caught off his hand and he was trying to pull him up. This guy was hanging, and the person who was trying to save him, he's trying to pull him by catching his hand and trying to pull him up. And what the person who's trying to help, he's telling him, okay, whatever load you have, whatever overweight that you have with you, just let it go in the valley, let it go from the cliff, so that you become lighter. I try to pull you up. But this person who is hanging, who is dangling, he is not letting the weight, the load that he was carrying to go away. So similarly, our situation is what we are loaded. We are loaded with the 6 anarthas, which is pejal, that is pride, anger, greed, envy, illusion, and lust. Because of these 6 things which are there with us, we are loaded and we are just hanging, and we are not letting it go. The moment we let it go, all these 6 anarthas, the Lord will take us up and he'll try to take him to his own abode. But because of not letting these 6 anarthas go, we are here. So how we can let these things go away? So there is in Bhagavad Gita 5.17, there is a shloka where it clearly says that these 6 anarthas are there in our hearts. Now, how these anarthas are to be removed? So it's said that if Prabhu, you can share the screen of 5.17 of Bhagavad Gita. If you can do that.
Prabhu, Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, Bhagavad Gita 5.17.
Yes, Prabhuji, looking for that link only.
In the left top corner, you will see library. Click on that. Left top. Left. And Bhagavad Gita, first one. 5, chapter 5, 17.
Sorry, Prabhu, I'm not very techno savvy. That's the reason I'm asking you to do it. I'm
No,
sorry.
I'm happy to do, Prabhuji.
17.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
570. Can somebody read the translation?
I will do, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation.
See, it's clearly mentioned here. When there are 4 things. Which are the 4 things? Faith, intelligence, refuge, and mind. It's, if you can read the purport one more time. Sorry, the translation for one more time, Prabhu.
Sure, Prabhuji. When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation.
Path of liberation. So when you have these 4 things completely connected to Krishna, all the 4 things you have to totally get involved with Krishna. What are these 4 things? It's firm, FIRM. It's an acronym, firm. Firm stands for faith, intelligence, refuge, and mind. When these 4 things are totally in Krishna, then what happens? All the misgivings, our heart gets cleansed up. So that cleansing, when it can only happen when these 4 things are totally with Krishna. We are totally attached to Krishna by these 4 means, which is faith, intelligence, refuge, and mind. What will when these 4 things are totally with Krishna, the 6 things, which are Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Mad, and Matsarya, which is pride, anger, greed, envy, illusion, and lust. That's page ill. Pageil. There's 6 things will get cleansed. So to clean those things, we have to. So that's what exactly the 6 things are the burden which are carrying. We are taking that load. So we have to let this load go off so that we can go on the path of liberation, or we can go ahead and be in the service of the Lord. So this is basically you are drowning yourself, and we are not ready to leave this load. So His Holiness Kadamakanand Swami Maharaj says, with piety, if you do the piety, if you do the punya karma, what will you get? You will only get punyas, but you will not get bhakti. So whatever piety, जो भी आप अच्छे काम कार्य करते हो उससे आपको पुण्य मिलेंगे. You will not get bhakti. Whatever bhakti you are doing is only because of the mercy of Lord and your Guru. The only way you can get that, whatever, even the small sukruti, because of the sukruti of a pure devotee of the Lord, you are able to get, a little bit of bhakti, whatever you are endeavoring for. Once, and this gradually, when you go on doing, getting the mercy of your Guru and Krishna, you can go ahead and you can progress in bhakti. Finally, Yudhishthira Maharaj is advised by Naraji not to get disturbed by affairs of the happiness and distress, but to look only unto the Lord, to execute the mission for which the Lord has descended. The Lord has descended, that he has already killed, the asuras. That means the people who were there, all the people who were killed in Kurukshetra. So Yudhishthira Maharaj has been advised by Naraji not to get disturbed by affairs of happiness and distress. So it's clearly mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. Sukha dukkha same kritva labha labho jaya. Don't be disturbed by these happenings. They are just like, the seasons which are coming. You cannot control them. The seasons will come, the summers will come, the winters will come, the spring will come. You cannot control them. They will come according to the time, and this is how it is. The happiness is, you cannot be happy throughout your life. You cannot be distressed throughout your life. That this happiness and distress, they will come. So you don't get agitated. Don't get disturbed. This is what are the instructions which are given to you this tomorrow. So we go ahead with shloka number 113 and 49.
Prabhu,
Yes,
one question is here.
yeah, Prabhu.
The first sentence of the purport is the Supreme Lord Personality of the Godhead is one without a second. This word का हिंदी मीनिंग तो अद्वितीय है, that is मतलब nobody उनके जैसा कोई नहीं है. लेकिन इस बहुत बार यूज किया, थोड़ा समझ में नहीं आता है. One without a second.
There is no one equal to Lord Krishna. One without a second. There is no one no one equal to, or as good as Lord. It is only one. He is the supreme.
हाँ, हिंदी में बराबर आदित्य करके लिखा है. आदित्य तो थोड़ा इंग्लिश में कंफ्यूजन है.
See, many a times it does happen that there are so many words which, but Prabhupada has given such a wonderful purport in which he's clearly instructing one without a second. That means दूसरा कोई है ही नहीं, वो एक ही है. How to emphasize what is that? How do you see that there is nobody who is equal to or greater than? So he is the only one. There is no second person even close to him, no, close to the Lord. So this is what I understand. If anybody else has some other, yeah.
It is the same meaning. I just wanted to have it from the आपसे मुंह से ज्यादा अच्छा समझ में आता है.
Hare Krishna. One without the second. Okay, now we are going with 113 and 49. Okay, that so I am Adya Maharaja Bhagavan Bhuta Bhavana Kala Rupo Avatirno Asyam Abhavaya Suradvisham. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, in the guise of all devouring time, Kala Rupa, has now descended to the earth to eliminate the envious from the world. Can somebody read the purpose, please?
Yes, Prabhu. There are two classes of human beings, namely the envious and the obedient. Since the Supreme Lord is one and the Father of all living beings, the envious living beings are also his sons, but they are known as the Asurs. But the living beings who are obedient to the Supreme Father are called Devtas or demigods because they are not contaminated by the material conception of life. Not only are the Asurs envious of the Lord in even denying the existence of the Lord, but they are also envious of all other living beings. The predominance of Asurs in the world is occasionally rectified by the Lord when he eliminates them from the word and establishes a rule of Devtas like the Pandavas. His designation as Kal is in disguise is significant. He is not at all dangerous, but he is the transcendental form of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. For the devotees, his factual form is disclosed, and for the non devotees, he appears like Kalaru, which is casual form. The casual form of the Lord is not at all pleasing to the asuras, and therefore they think of the Lord as formless in order to feel secure that they will not be vanquished by the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Such a wonderful explanation of the people who are asuras and how, who are devtas and who are asuras. Very nicely explained here by Srila Prabhupada in the purport. Okay, we just go ahead with this now. Now, in Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, text number 8, it's mentioned as to why the Lord descends. Paritrāṇāya sadhūnāṁ vināṣāya ca duṣkratāṁ dharma samstharpanārtāya sambhavami yuge yuge. So, if we see in Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a shloka, second canto, third chapter, and 17th shloka. Ayur harati vaikumsam udhyan astam chayam asau tasyarthe yat shano nita uttama shloka vartavya. Both by rising and by setting, the sun decreases the duration of life of everyone except one who utilizes the time by discussing topics of all good personality of Godhead. Now, 24 hours are given by the Lord for all the human beings. One who utilizes the time by discussing the topics of God, for him, the rising of sun and setting does not decrease the duration of his life. Example is given of a kitten. Kitten in the mouth, a small baby of cat, when it is in the mouth of the cat, it is secure. It feels secure. But in the same mouth, if there is a rat, he's scared to death because he knows that he cannot get out of this, from the mouth of the cat. Devotees know that we are in the mouth of Lord and hence safe, whereas the non-devotees are always afraid of death. So this is exactly, the situation which has been explained by Srila Prabhupada in the purport. He appears like Kala Rupa, which is casual form. This casual form of Lord is not at all pleasing to asuras because they are afraid of death. So pleasing to the asuras, and therefore they think of the Lord as formless because formless in order to feel secure that they will not be vanquished by the Lord. So, when the cat it's drinking milk, it closes its eyes and just licks the milk. So it doesn't see here and there, thinking that nobody is seeing it. Or when the rabbit is in danger, what he does, he makes a burrow and put his head in that burrow. He makes a hole on the ground and he closes his eyes and puts his head in the burrow and thinking that no, the danger is gone now. So similarly, the people who are asuras, what they do, since they are afraid of the Kala Rupa, what they do, they think that the Lord is formless in order to feel secure that Kal tal gaya, that the bad part is gone now. So to feel secure that they will not be vanquished by the Lord, they say that the Lord is formless. This is one of the things which is mentioned. And another point which is mentioned here is about the asuras. The asuras, who are asuras? Not only are the asuras envious of Lord in even denying the existence of Lord, but they are also envious of all other living beings. The asuras. So in a way, like like I was thinking in between the lines, but they are also envious of all other living beings. So if we are envious of anybody or as a matter of any reason, that means we are asuras. So first and foremost thing, we have to let this burden of enviousness go. So this is one of that anarthas, which is page L in the pride, anger, and greed. And then greed and envy. So that enviousness has to go. Then only we become, we are in the process of cleansing ourselves. And here it's mentioned, not only are the asuras envious of the Lord in even denying the existence of the Lord. Okay, we do not deny the existence of the Lord, but they are also envious of all other living beings. So if we are envious of anybody, as a matter of fact, we are, somehow or the other in the corporate world, when we see, oh, this guy is doing good business, this guy is bringing more business to the company, and this guy has, just finished, he's just new to me and he has done an excellent job. We are envious of him. And then, so these, in a way, we are also asuras. So we have to correct ourselves. This is why what I, realized when I was reading this purport. So enviousness has to be eradicated from from us. Not only enviousness, the rest of them also: pride, anger, greed. So these all things, all the 6 anathas are to be removed. And as I suggested earlier, the best thing to get that thing is get them removed is, having firm, which is faith, intelligence, refuge, and mind, totally firmly established in Lord Krishna. So once we have that, we pray to the Lord. At the same time, we have to pray. We have to beg the Lord so that these things they get out from us, and we don't become asuras as it's mentioned here. So that was one thing. And further, Srila Prabhupada explains about the asuras. So in Srimad Bhagavatam 5:18 and 12, it is mentioned who is Sura and Asura. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a shloka which is 5:18 and 12. I just read the translation of it. All the demigods and their exalted qualities, such as religion, knowledge, and renunciation, become manifest in the body of one who has developed unalloyed devotion for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. On the other hand, a person devoid of devotional service and engaged in material activities has no good qualities. Even if he adapts at the practice of mystic yoga or the honest endeavor of maintaining his family and relatives, he must be driven by his own mental speculation and must engage in the service of Lord's external energy. How can there be any good qualities in such a man? So it's clearly mentioned all the demigods and their exalted qualities such as religion, knowledge, and renunciation become manifest in the body of one who has developed unalloyed devotion for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. So when a person takes to devotional service, all these qualities, exalted qualities of religion, knowledge, and renunciation, they are automatically manifested in the body of that person when he takes to devotion of the Supreme Lord. On the other hand, if a person is devoid of devotional service and engage in material activities like taking care of his family and relatives, then how these qualities will not be reflected in that person. So then that person becomes a asura, and the person who has taken to devotional service, that means who has taken to bhakti, these qualities, like the qualities of knowledge, religion, and renunciation, these will gradually manifest in him. This is what Srimad Bhagavatam says, 5th Canto, 18th chapter, shloka number 12. So in what we would endeavor for is to take up to devotional service seriously so that we can progress in the path of spiritual knowledge and go ahead to become a good devotee of the Lord. And gradually these qualities, they will be manifested within us. So Srimad Bhagavatam 1:13 and 15. We go ahead with this. Nishpaditam deva katyam avashesham pratikshate tavat yuyam avekshadhyam bhavid yavad iheshwara. Can somebody read the translation and the purport?
Yeah, I'll do that, bro. The Lord has already performed his duties to help the demigods. He is awaiting the rest. You Pandavas may wait as long as the Lord is here on earth. Purport. The Lord descends from his abode Krishna Lok, the topmost planet in the spiritual sky, in order to help the demigod administrators of this material world when they are greatly vexed by the asuras who are envious not only of the Lord, but also of his devotees. As referred to above, the conditioned living beings contact material association by their own choice, dedicated by a strong desire to lord it over the resources of the material world and become imitation lords of all they survey. Even everyone is trying to become an imitation god. There is a keen competition among such imitation gods, and such competitors are generally known as asuras. When there are too many asuras in the world, then it becomes a hell for those who are devotees of the Lord. Due to the growth of the asuras, the mass of the people who are generally devoted to the Lord by nature, and the pure devotees of the Lord, including the demigods in the higher planets, pray to the Lord for relief, and the Lord either descends personally from his abode or deputes someone of his devotees to remodel the fallen condition of the human society or even the animal society. Such disruptions take place not only in human society, but also among animals, birds, or other living beings, including the demigods in the higher planets. Lord Krishna descended personally to vanquish asuras like Kamsa, Jarasandh, and Shishupal during the region of Maharaj Yudhishthir. Amongst all these asuras were killed by the Lord. All of these asuras were killed by the Lord. Now he was waiting the annihilation of his own dynasty called the Yadu Vamsha, who appeared by his will in this world. He wanted to take them away before his own departure to his eternal abode. Narada, like Vidura, did not disclose the imminent annihilation to the Yadu dynasty, but indirectly gave a hint to the king and his brothers to wait till the incident happened and the Lord departed. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. See here, what's in the purport is really mentioned, like how does the things work? There are so many questions, and that's the reason Srila Prabhupada and at present there are the devotees or the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, direct disciples of Srila Prabhupada. They have been telling that we have to at least minimum we should read. Of course, we read the full Srimad Bhagavatam, nothing like it. But minimum what we should do before getting the initiation is to read 2 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. So see how detailed every purport has been so nicely presented. Now here it's mentioned like how, first and foremost thing, how does the Lord descend? How does the Lord come and when does the Lord come? So it is, see, the Lord descends from his abode, the topmost planet in the spiritual sky, in order to help the demigods administrator of this material world. When they are greatly vexed, they are into trouble by the asuras, who are envious not only of the Lord, but also of his devotees. In the previous purport, we saw that who are the asuras. Now in this purport, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning that because of these people who are asuras, who are envious, not only they don't, they consider the Lord not non-existence, or they consider Lord as formless. And these asuras also have the other qualities of, they getting envious of his devotees. Now, when the Lord comes, why does the Lord come? Because these devotees, they are been troubled, they are been, troubled or by these asuras. So they go to the Devatas, and Devatas, they pray to the Lord Vishnu. And then the Lord takes the form, he descends on this earth, just paritraya sadhuna. So he comes here to take care of the sadhus. And vinashaya dushkritam, who are dushta, who are the asuras, he comes and he kills them. So as referred to the above condition, living beings contract material association by their own choice. Now here also is mentioned that how do the people, like in the condition living being, that is, we in this material world, we get connected and we come to this world. We were in Golok with the Lord, but because of our desire to enjoy separately, strong desires. You see here, even the question is mentioned by that we are here because of our own choice. It is not the choice of the Lord. The Lord doesn't want us to leave the Golok, but because of a strong desire to lord it over, that means lord it over on the resources which are available in the material world. We want to enjoy them. And just when we saw that Lord is enjoying, when we were in the service of the Lord, we saw that, okay, Lord is enjoying, so why not me? So when that thing of me, my, and I comes up, what happens? Then I want to enjoy. So Lord has made this material world. Okay, you go and enjoy here. So then we come here and lord it over. Then we try to lord it over. That means we try to take that thing into our concession, and we want to become the Lord. Everyone is trying to become an imitation God. Similarly, the God is, he's enjoying and in his realm. Now, what we are doing here, we are trying to become God here. मेरे बगैर कोई काम नहीं होता, मैंने जो ये किया इसके बगैर ऐसा नहीं होता. So we are trying to become the God here, and there is this competition, and that is called the competition among. Here, competitors are generally known as asuras, and such competitors are known as asuras. So the Srila Prabhupada is mentioning these are known as asuras. When there are too many asuras, जब सब लोगों को जो है राज करना है, सबको भगवान बनना है, then what happens? Then the Lord, he descends and he comes and he annihilates them. Due to the growth of asuras, the mass of people who are generally devoted to the Lord by nature and pure devotees of the Lord, including the demigods in higher planets, pray to the Lord for relief, and the Lord either descends personally from his pole or deputes some of his devotees to remodel the fallen conditions of human society or even animal society. Such disruptions take place not only in human society but also among animals, birds, or other living beings, including the demigods in the higher planets. Lord Sri Krishna descends personally to vanquish asuras like Kamsa, Jarasandha, and Shishupal. And during the reign of Maharaj Yudhishthira, almost all these asuras were killed by Lord. So this is what exactly the Lord comes here to, kill the asuras. Paritraya sadhunam vinashaya darshkatam dharma samsara pranataya. So the third mention is he comes here, the Lord comes here to establish dharma. So in what was Kurukshetra's war for? It was for dharma, establishment of dharma. So he, during that time, he also killed so many of the, the asuras like Kamsa, Jarasanga, and Shishupada, so that he established dharma and he kills the Duskritino. He kills the Duskritino and he established dharma. So there is one more, I was hearing one of the lectures. We just first cover this and then I'll talk about the Narada, like Vidura, did not disclose the imminent annihilation of Yadu dynasty. The people, the Yadu dynasty was totally, killed after the Kurukshetra war. Why? Why did they fought among themselves and killed themselves? So the Acharyas, they give a very, very nice explanation. The Yadu dynasty had come here to serve the Lord, so that they came here on the instructions of the Lord to come and help him, and to serve him. So when so that all these three things, the Paritraya sadhuna, vinashaya dharma samsarpanartaya. So the Yadu dynasty came here to serve as in the instructions of the Lord. Whenever the Lord descends, he doesn't descends alone. He has the full paraphernalia with him. He has the devotees with him. He has the demigods with him, and they are very, very happy to serve the Lord in his mission. So the Yadu dynasty was here. So Yadu dynasty, and the Lord made such an arrangement that they fought among themselves and they killed each other, and the entire Yadu dynasty was wiped out. Why did this happen? The people, they think that because Krishna did something wrong, because they don't understand Krishna as God. So what they thought, because Krishna has done, these are the reaction of his, reaction, and the full Yadu dynasty is wiped out. But actually, the thing is that Yadu dynasty was wiped out because it was the will of the Lord. The Lord never wanted the devotees who had come here to serve him to be here in the material world. He wanted to take them back. So he had made such arrangements so that entire Yadu dynasty fought among themselves and they were wiped out and they were taken up. So this was not Narada, like Vidura did not disclose. Narada and Vidura, they knew that, but they did not explain this to the brothers as Pandavas and wait till the incident happened and the Lord departed. When the Lord departed, then only they would come to know the Pandavas. So I was hearing one of the lectures here. It's mentioned since the topic had come about why does the Lord descend here? So there are this three things which they do. The Lord does is that he established dharma, then he takes the care of the devotees, and he comes and he annihilates the miscreants. So this is what is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. I was hearing one of the what you call a lecture in which the devotees, they very nicely explain about what does the Lord come in for. It's not only these things. There are so many things the Lord comes. There are many reasons why the Lord appears. So in one of the lecture, it was mentioned that in Srimad Bhagavatam there is a narration of one shloka which comes in the Narsimha Leela. I'll just try to find that and we can discuss. I'll explain the shloka as well as then we try to discuss something on the. Okay, just one here and. Yes. Okay. Now this is a shloka in 7th canto, 8th chapter, shloka number 17. Now this, I was hearing this lecture so beautifully explained, which is another activity of the Lord. There are numerous activities which the Lord does. As mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, Dharma Samsar Pranarthaya Sambhavami Yuge. He established Dharma, he comes here to annihilate the miscreants and he take care of the devotees. So here in this shloka, shloka is Satyam Vidhatum Nija Vritta Bhashitam Vyaptim Cha Bhuteshu Chapmana Adrashya Ati Adbhuta Rupam Stambhe Savayam Namrgam Namanusham. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, 8th chapter, shloka number 17. Now, the first statement is Satyam Vidhatum Nija Vritta Bhashitam. I'll just give the the background of this shloka and what is it about. This is about, when Prahlad Maharaj is asked by Hiranyakashipu, where does the Lord, he's totally frustrated. Hiranyakashipu is totally frustrated and he says, and where is your Lord? So this Prahlad Maharaj, he tells him, Yatra Tatra Sarvatra, the Lord is everywhere. So when he says that, then Hiranyakashipu says, is he there in the pillar? So he says, yeah, he's there in the pillar also. So totally angered by this statement, what does Hiranyakashipu does? He takes the mace, the gada, and he hits it on the pillar so that the pillar breaks. And from there, the Lord Narasimha appears. So now this shloka is very nicely explained by Sarvabhaum Prabhu and a few of the devotees, similar kind of on this shloka. Satyam Vidhatum Nija Vritta Bhashitam. That's the shloka is 7.8.17 from Srimad Bhagavatam. Satyam Vidhatum Nija Vritta Bhashitam. Satyam is, we know that. What is Satyam? Satyam is truth. Vidhatum, to prove. Nija Vritta Bhashitam, the words of his own servant. Now, see the statement here. Satyam Vidhatum Nija Vritta Bhashitam. First is Satyam is truth. Vidhatum, to prove. To prove. To prove what? Nija Vritta Bhashitam. Always, Nija is always. Bhritya. Bhritya means servant. And Bhashitam, the words, the bhasha of his devotees. Vyaptim cha bhuteshu akhileshu chatmanaha. Now, what does that mean? Vyaptim cha, the pervasion, cha bhuteshu, among the living entities, animals. So we'll just understand the shloka. Why did the Lord appear? Now, the question appears, we were just reading that why did he manifest? So he manifested Vidhatum to prove. What to prove? Nija Prithya Bhashitam. To prove the words of his devotees, the Lord appeared. Now, this is one of the, leelas of the Lord. And now he says that Satyam Vidhatum Nija Prithya. He wanted to make the words of his devotee to come true. That's the reason he came out from the Stamba. Stamba means Stamba Sabayam. It's mentioned in the shloka. Stamba Sabayam. From the pillar, the Lord came out. Why did he come out? Why did he came out from the pillar? Satyam Vidhatum. To prove the words of his devotee that he's there in the pillar, the Lord came out from the pillar. So this is to prove the Satyam Vidhatum Nija Britta Bhashitam. Now, why did the Lord appear? The Lord appeared because he wanted to prove the words of the devotee, so that he appeared from there. Now, if we try to understand from this Leela of Narsimha, there are a lot. He came to prove, the words of his 5 devotees. In this Narsimha Leela, the Lord appeared to prove the words of his 5 devotees to be true. Now he came with one appearance. The Lord came as a appearance of Narsimha Dev. During that Leela, he proved the words of Prahlad Maharaj to be true. Why? Because Prahlad Maharaj, whatever Prahlad Maharaj said, that he is available in this pillar, so he came out from it. Who was the second devotee? The second devotee was Brahma. Because Lord had Brahmaji is a devotee of the Lord, and Brahma had given the benedictions to this Hiranyakashipu, and we know that that he will not be killed inside the house, outside the house, not in the morning, not at night. He will not be killed by weapons, or he will not be killed by an animal or a human being. So all these benedictions, whatever had been given, they had been given by Brahmaji. And who is Brahma? Brahma is a very good devotee of Lord. So to prove his words also, Lord appeared in such a way that, all his words, Lord, he gave that, he proved that his words of his devotees to be true. Like Lord would have made an arrangement to give just a, what you call a heart attack or something, so that there are so many ways Lord could have killed Hiranyakashipu, but no, he did not do that. He just kept the words of his devotee Brahmaji also to be true. Then the words of Narad Muni. The Narad Muni is the third devotee. Narad Muni, how did he keep the words of his devotee Narad Muni? Like when Indra and other demigods, they had kidnapped the wife of Hiranyakashipu. The name was Kayadu. When Prahlad Maharaj was inside the womb, they had decided, Indra and the demigods, they had decided, this guy, since Kayadu is pregnant and she will deliver a baby, so this baby will be a baby of an asura who is Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu is so terrible, so his son will be even more terrible. So let us just kill the child when he is delivered, or when Kayadu delivers the baby, we'll kill him. So that time Narad Muni told, no, it is not that. He will be a devotee of Lord Vishnu. So that also, now Narad Muni told not to do so, not to kill the child. At that time, had Indra and they would have killed the child, like the story would have ended. But no, since Prahlad Maharaj was delivered and he became the child, he became a very good devotee of the Lord. So that the Lord came here to to honor the words of his devotee. Then Hiranyakashipu himself, this was the 4th devotee. You know that Hiranyakashipu, they are Jay and Vijay from the Vaikuntha Lok, and they had requested that, Hiranyakashipu was always thinking that, okay, now once I come here, they were given choice. The Jay and Vijay, they were given the choice whether they want to stay here, to become a devotee, to come to this material world and become a devotee and live for long. And they would take long to go back to the Vaikuntha Loka to resume their job as a doorkeepers. But they refused. They said, no, we would rather become the enemies of Lord, so that we get immediately killed so that we can come back to and do our service. So because of that, Lord came here to fulfill his words. And the fifth one is the four Kumaras, Jay and Vijay. Four Kumaras and Jay and Vijay, they were very sorry because Jay and Vijay were judgmental and four Kumaras were very angry. Both regretted. Four Kumaras prayed Lord not too long. So this is the story behind that. The moral is that, the Lord comes here with, and the acharyas, they explain in such a nice way that there are so many activities which are done by Lord. So this is one of the additional thing which I heard and wanted to share, that Lord comes here to fulfill the words of his devotees. Whatever the pure devotees they utter, Lord comes to fulfill that also. Now we'll go ahead with the shloka number 51. Dhritarashtra saha bhrata bhatra Gandharya cha swa bhareya dakshinena himavata rishinam ashramam gata. Can somebody read the translation and the purport?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna translation. O king, your uncle Dhritarashtra, his brother Vidura, and his wife Gandhari have gone to the southern side of the Himalaya mountains, where there are shelters of the great sages. Purport. To pacify the mourning Maharaj Yudhishthira, Narada first of all spoke from the philosophical point of view, and then he began to describe the future movements of his uncle, which he could see by his forcing powers, and thus began to describe us as follows.
Okay, so this is a small purport. It's clear what is the instructions given by Narad Muni. So we'll go ahead with 113 and 52. Shroto bhi saptabhir ya vai swardhur ni saptadha vayat saptanam pritaye nana saptashrota prakasha prachashate. Okay, the palace is called Sapta Rota, divided by 7, because there the waters of sacred Ganges were divided into 7 branches. This was done for the satisfaction of the 7 great rishis. Okay, I think this is the last shloka, which is 53. Okay, we'll cover this 53. And shloka number 53. Snatva savanam tasmin hatva chagnin yathavidi bhaksha upasantatma sa aste vigatai sanaha. Okay, can you somebody read the translation and the purport, please?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can I read?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah. Translation and purport by Shri Prabhupada. Jai Shri Prabhupada. On the banks at Sapstrota, Dhritarashtra is now engaged in beginning Ashtanga Yoga by bathing 3 times daily in the morning, noon, and evening, by performing the Agnihotra sacrifice with fire, and by drinking only water. This helps one control the mind and the sense and frees one completely from thoughts of familial affection. Purport. The yoga system is a mechanical way to control the senses and the mind and divert them from matter to spirit. The preliminary process are the sitting posture, meditation, spiritual thoughts, manipulation of air passing within the body, and gradual situation in trance, facing the absolute person, Paramatma. Such mechanical ways of rising to the spiritual platform prescribe some regulative principles of taking bath daily 3 times, fasting as far as possible, sitting and concentrating the mind on spiritual matters, and thus gradually becoming free from Vishaya or material objectives. Material existence means to be absorbed in the material objective, which is simply illusory. House, country, family, society, children, property, and business are some of the material coverings of the spirit, Atma, and the yoga system helps one to become free from all these illusory thoughts and gradually turns towards the absolute person, Paramatma. By material association and education, we learn simply to concentrate on flimsy things, but yoga is the process of forgetting them altogether. Modern so-called yogis and yoga system manifest some magical feats, and ignorant persons are attracted by such false things, or they accept the yoga system as a cheap healing process for diseases of the gross gross body. But factually, the yoga system is a process of learning to forget what we have acquired throughout the struggle for existence. Dhritarashtra was also all along engaged in improving family affairs by raising the standard of living of his sons, or by usurping the property of the Pandavas for the sake of his own sons. These are common affairs for a man grossly user or by materialistic and without knowledge of the spiritual force. He does not see how this can drag one from heaven to hell. By the grace of his younger brother Vidura, Dhritarashtra was enlightened and could see his grossly illusory engagements, and by such enlightenment he was able to leave home for spiritual realization. Sri Narad Deva was just foretelling the way of his spiritual progress in a place which was sanctified by the flow of the celestial Ganges. Drinking water only without solid food is also considering fasting. This is necessary for advancement of spiritual knowledge. A foolish man wants to be a cheap yogi without observing the regulative principles. A man who has no control over the tongue at first can hardly become a yogi. Yogi and bhogi are two opposite terms. The bhogi, or the merry man who eats and drinks, cannot be a yogi, for a yogi is never allowed to eat and drink unrestrictedly. We may note with profit now how Dhritarashtra began his yoga system by drinking water only and sitting calmly in a place with a spiritual atmosphere, deeply absorbed in the thoughts of the Lord Hari, the personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna. Hare Krishna. The yoga system is a mechanical way to control the senses and the mind and divert them from the matter to spirit. This is what Srila Prabhupada is mentioning here. It's a mechanical way. Such mechanical way of rising to the spiritual platform prescribes some regulative principles. So it has been clearly mentioned here that there are some principles which are to be followed. You cannot just the previously what I mentioned that chicken, if you need the eggs, you don't have to just chop off the head of the chicken so that because you only get the eggs. No, you have to take the full chicken. You have to feed the chicken so that you can get the eggs. So similarly, there are rules and regulations to be followed. You cannot just take part of it and say that it's done. So such mechanical ways of rising to the spiritual platform, they are prescribed with some rules and regulations, like taking bath in the morning, 3 times taking bath, fasting as far as possible, sitting and concentrating the mind on spiritual matters, and gradually becoming free from Vishaya or material objectives. So we have to, what basically the purpose of yoga is to get detached from the material things. The material existence means to be absorbed in the material objectives, which is simply illusionary. And Srila Prabhupada is mentioning the people are connected with house, country, family, society, children, property, and businesses are some of the material coverings of the spirit, Atma. And the yoga system helps one to become free from all these illusionary thoughts and gradually turn towards the absolute person, Paramatma. But then Srila Prabhupada is also mentioning that in the modern day, what is happening? That the yoga is meant for what? For getting rid of some ailments. Like if suppose somebody has some ailment to the stomach, then he will tell him to do so and so kind of yoga. If suppose somebody has a back pain, then tell somebody, okay, do this yoga and you'll get relief. You want to reduce your weight, then you do some yogas. If you want to increase your height, you do these kind of yoga. The people, they have made this as a cheap thing. Yoga is not the actual function. But factually the yoga system is process of learning to forget what we have acquired throughout the struggle for existence. Whatever we have acquired, whatever we are for the existence, whatever we are doing, we have to just forget that thing and just concentrate on the Paramatma which is inside our residing in our hearts. So then, by the grace of his younger brother Vidura, Dhritarashtra was enlightened. So similarly, when we also, when we get into the association of the devotees, when you get into the association of, when you get the sukruti, while you taking the blessings from the gurus and acharyas, who are pure devotees of the Lord, then only you get enlightened. And your realizing spiritual realization starts. But Sri Narada Deva was just foretelling the ways of spiritual progress in a place which was sanctified by the flow of the celestial Ganges. And this was Narad Muni is explaining to Yudhishthira Maharaj that that place where Dhritarashtra Gandhari they have gone. That place is a sanctified place because that Ganga is flowing there, and drinking water is. Srila Prabhupada also mentions that only drinking water is a way of fasting, is also considered as fasting. जिसे होता है निर्जल होता है and sajal होता है. Nirjal is without the water. We do the fasting during some of the people they fast all the ekadashis nirjal. Some of the people like many of them excuse me, many of the devotees they fast on the Madhav Tithis, and they fast nirjal. Some of them they do with sajal. They only fast by drinking water throughout the day. So this is also kind of fasting is mentioned. Then Srila Prabhupada mentions about the yogi and bhogi. So cannot be a yogi, but a person cannot be a person who wants to a merry man, eat and drink and be merry. So he cannot be a yogi. So he's basically called a bhogi. And Dhritarashtra began his yoga system by drinking water only and sitting calmly in the place with the spiritual atmosphere, deeply absorbed in the thoughts of the Lord Hari, the personality of God. This is what Narad Muni is telling Yudhishthira Maharaj, that Dhritarashtra is doing this kind of yoga system by drinking water and sitting calmly in the place with the spiritual atmosphere. So basically the things what we have heard, what we understood that devotional service is one of the most important way by which we can progress. And here that is only possible when you are in the association of the good devotees, and you take the blessings from your gurus and acharyas. And this reminds me of one of the very profound statement given by Vivek Bindra, who is very we must have a motivational speaker. He mentions that he had done his MBA in business and financing, and he said that his statement was that I did my second MBA, which was the most important thing, and that I did in Vrindavan. So what is that MBA stands for? So he said the most beautiful association, MBA. So MBA he did in Vrindavan when he was there in the midst of his devotees and the midst of his with association with his Guru Maharaj. So this is what I wanted to share, and thank you very much for bearing my discussions and hearing my talks and my realizations. Hare Krishna. Dandavad to everybody, and if there are any flaws or any mistakes which I might have said during my class, please forgive me, and whatever mistakes and shortfalls are there, these are my shortcomings, and whatever good things are there, this is what I have heard from the acharyas and from the gurus. So, and senior devotees. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
प्रभु जी, ये जो आपने 6 अनर्थ बताए, काम क्रोध मद मोह
Matsarya.
काम क्रोध लोभ मोह मद और मात्सर्य.
काम क्रोध लोभ मोह मद मात्सर्य. थैंक यू प्रभु जी.
हरे कृष्ण.
उद्धव पृष्ठ प्रभु, थैंक यू सो मच. बहुत बढ़िया. थैंक यू वेरी मच.
Hare Krishna, Uddhava Prishta Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Hare
Excellent
Krishna.
answer, Prabhu.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु.
Prabhuji, whoever is recording can please stop the recording.
Yeah, I will do that, Prabhu. Yeah.